Weather Report is brought to you by Kirk Home Center. We've got a great deal in store for you.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Make Subway your lunchtime destination for your favorite subs, salads, pizza, wraps, and snacks.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal with any sandwich or salad with a 20-ounce drink and waffle fries for an additional $3 or a 30-ounce or bottle drink and waffle fries for an additional $3.50. Subway, eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Make Subway your lunchtime destination for your favorite subs, salads, pizza, wraps, and snacks.
This is Midday Meditation. William Cowper wrote these words: God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the stand and fall of the people of Israel. Lord, please help me to pray with clean motives. Amen.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Hello, West Bay. Hello, boys and girls. It's Rotary Central's Easter Extravaganza. The Easter story time will be at the Teacher Redley Powery Library in West Bay. The Rotary Central Easter Extravaganza, Saturday, April the 10th, commencing at 10:30 a.m. There will be the Easter story. In fact, many Easter stories. Easter goodie bags, Easter eggs, not forgetting the Easter bunny, and Easter snacks for all the children. Rotary Central Easter Extravaganza. Remember, Rotary opens opportunities.
James Herman Connolly, 1890-1960. James Herman Connolly sailed as a cook on vessels traveling from Grand Cayman to the Keys, Tampa, Cuba, Jamaica, and Panama. When at home, he kept school for the Sand Bluff and Collier's children until they were eligible to attend the government school in East End at the age of 7. He was also a shopkeeper who sold groceries for various merchants. Mr. Connolly was a Sunday school superintendent and a catechist, lay pastor in the Gun Bay Presbyterian Church. He labored faithfully as a catechist for 33 years until illness prevented him from continuing.
Looking for answers.
Hi, I'm Jaden.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Josta. And I'm Jana. And we are
The Williams Quartet.
Once I was bound by sin's galling fetters.
And you're listening to Inspiration on the Weekend.
Radio Cayman,
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. What another terrific, thankful Thursday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of all and get into the fray. Well, I'm going to start things off, focus in with the good friends from the Department of Environment, 1 to 2:15. Mr. Ezra Miller MP for Northside will join us. And then at 2:15 to 2:30, Mr. McKeever Bush. It's going to be a great day and you're going to be a part of it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow, Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And good afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And in the studio, we have the excellent company once again, Mr. John Bothwell. This time as manager of the Legislative Implementation and Coordination Unit. He's also the secretary of the National Conservation Council. And you know him in many veins. You might actually see him playing dominoes. No, that's not true. Always a pleasure, my friend, to welcome you. Thanks so much for coming on board.
Thank you for having us on and fitting us in on short notice. We really appreciate that.
Well, listen, when it comes to the marine environment, I like it. I like to know that I'm enjoying it responsibly and properly, and as we get a perspective on where and when we can fish, where there's any confusion or otherwise, have it laid to rest. So shore fishing in the Cayman again has popped up on our radar.
Yes, and we're just here to make sure everybody knows that you are still allowed to fish from the shore in various places around the Cayman Islands. What happened sort of over the weekend, we started getting inquiries regarding people, not even inquiries, apparently there's more people saying they had been told that you could not fish from shore anywhere in the Cayman Islands. And obviously that's not the case. And so the Minister for Environment wanted to make sure that we were here on Radio Cayman to make sure that the public, had the right information so that we were on the record, except on the wrong show.
On the record for Talk Today.
Yes.
Now, with that in mind, maybe let's ask the question in reverse, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anywhere from the shore that you cannot fish?
So there are places on the marine parks that you can't go fishing. Mm-hmm. The marine reserves are the areas that are reserved and set aside for the recovery of fish principally, but for the preservation of the environment in that entire area. And there's no fishing in those zones. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the environmental zone as well, where people have never been able to fish there for decades. That's still an environmental zone. You can't fish in there. But under the marine parks, it's the marine reserves. There's no fishing from shore till they drop off 150 feet. So the marine parks, as people know, go out to 150 feet to protect that sort of deeper edge of the outer reef, where fish are aggregating, and to come all the way into shore where the juveniles are hanging out. And so what we have is, in the marine reserves, we have very effective protected areas that go right from the shore. So think the mangroves, for example, out across the turtle grass beds, the shallow patch reef, the sand flats, the deeper reefs out to the edge of the wall, protecting the fish at all of their ages and size classes. And what this means is that they can grow up, they get big, they reproduce, and they can move out.
They get raised to vote. Okay.
They switch districts. As my dad said to me when I was a kid learning fish swim.
Fish swim.
And so what we have in the marine park system is a system around all 3 Cayman Islands of open and closed zones, is the simplest way to think of it. And so the fish numbers build up in the closed zones, spill out over into the open zones where they can be fished. In the system, we have line fishing areas, which are just what they say. They're for going fishing using either a hand line or a rod and reel from shore, from a boat, doesn't matter. We also have areas that are, let's call them open zones. They're not part of the marine park system. There's no zone over them. They're open for people to do whatever they want, i.e. go fishing. Yes.
So as we look at the shores, we don't presume the line fishing zones from the shores. Now, you mentioned turtle grass, and I'm not trying to get, especially with you at this time, but we know over the years some places the turtle grass are either been removed or proposed to be removed. So you mentioned that would be an area that would be protected. We understand the importance of the turtle grass, but
so turtle grass is a hugely productive ecosystem in the marine environment. And it's very important, obviously, for small fish as well. They can hide down amongst the turtle grass blades, but there's a lot of live shrimps, etc., living down in that mud that then become forage for the larger fish. So your classic extended ecosystem would be someplace like the North Sound or South Sound, pick any of the sounds you want almost, where you'd have fish hanging up around the turtle grass, around the mangrove prop roots during the day. So a nice medium size, mangrove snapper hanging up there. In the evening, come sunset, they move out over the turtle grass flats, looking for what we used to call the white holes, the shrimp mounds, because they're looking for shrimp and other stuff like that to feed on at night. And that turtle grass bed is an integral part of the fish ecosystem that we want to be productive as fishermen. And then, of course, it extends further out to the fish hanging out up on the reef. Again, some of them at night will move into the turtle grass beds from the shelters and the holes in the reef. Or as they get much bigger, like your lagoon snappers being the classics, then moving out offshore, or particularly the mutton snappers, they're not small anymore. They're moving out to those deeper reefs, which are now also protected as well.
So with that in mind, then, when we're looking, maybe I can ask 2 other things before we get into the first break. Many of us live on canal front properties and so on. In our backyards or empty lots, or can we fish from those?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good question. Thank you. So yes, the marine park zones do not extend into the canals. That's just a simplicity of mapping everything and making things work, as well as some technical details that we don't have to get into. But yes, the marine park zones do extend back in, so absolutely you can fish from your dock, your canal, empty canal property. I can't tell you to fish from someone else's empty canal property, but however, it's still Cayman waters, so no taking fish under 8 inches would be the big thing. Just to protect the species that are completely protected, you have to leave them in the water. So you can fish there. You just got to follow the basic rules, and all of these are in our marine parks brochure, which is on the DOE website, www.doe.ky. If anybody has any questions, please download the brochure. You'll know what's going on, or you'll be able to contact DOE directly and say, I got a question when you say this.
Yeah. I know a number of people, who, because of the various iterations over the last, 20 plus years, they keep a brochure handy in their cars if they fish, or in their house or in their desk, just for reference. People like my brothers and I probably have this committed to memory. Like you, for me, I need to look at it and go, let me just call you.
Yes, and so we know that now with the new enhanced parks, those of us who had had it kind of memorized are having to relearn it. We completely understand that. And so we've been focused right now on getting brochures out. Our enforcement officers, our conservation officers, or they call themselves now, have been doing a sterling job of that, particularly over the last weekend, talking to people and saying, here's, we know that this stuff is kind of new. Here are the rules, including where you can fish. We're producing these, by the hundreds every day, almost to hand out.
So, like, along the island shore, let's say from Southwest Point to Northwest Point, coming up around, we can fish there?
It depends. We need people to get the maps and know where they're going fishing. We've been at the, some of the fishing clinics recently saying, know where you're going. You've got to look for either a line fishing zone or an open zone, somewhere where there's no colour on the map, as it were, and that's where it's open.
And with many of these zones in the past, there were big, signs.
Yes.
They're still up there posted, we would know.
So signs and stuff are coming. So that's why I keep talking right now about the brochure. It's a great question. Thank you. We're working on getting new signs prepared and put up for everybody. So, again, we know that having people become comfortable and familiar with these new enhanced marine parks is going to take a bit of time and a lot of education. And that's what part of this. So, again, thank you to Radio Cayman for having us on. We just wanted to make sure today that people know that it's something, there's enhanced marine parks, to get the new brochure, but B, to also know that of course you can keep fishing from the shore in certain areas. That's, of course, we are.
Right. I mean, we're approaching almost 40 years thereabouts of our marine park legislation.
This is our 35th anniversary. Going to be this month. Yes.
Yeah. So I round up a little, make it sound a little bit better. I remember the early days of this discussion, and some of the older folks, perhaps not just commending the legislation, but commenting that this is something that they practice, as children, that their parents practice. So being, conservation minded is about having something for a generation, but have something for now as well.
Absolutely.
When we come back from the break, Mr. Buffer, maybe you can take us through some more of the questions, maybe help us to understand if there are particular popular spots that we may fish: Barker, South Sound, East End, Camelback, Little Cayman, because it's all three islands that this legislation impacts.
Yes, absolutely.
And ask the question, are there any of those areas that are now precluded? Are there even areas that were once that are now allowed, for instance? Maybe we could talk to some of that.
I can absolutely try to, yes.
All right. We're going to continue the discussion, and as you look at it, it's a good time to fish, whether on land or on the sea. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
We're a group of like-minded individuals with a love and dedication to our country and a desire to serve.
All of us have previously served as members of government
and look forward to the opportunity to represent our country and communities once again.
Our collective goal is to create a better country through working together.
We chose the theme, Community Creates Country,
because we believe that everyone has a contribution to make to his or her community, and by extension, his or her country.
This is Wayne Panton, and I am seeking to represent the people of Newlands.
This is Heather Bodden, and I am hoping to represent the community of Savannah.
And I am Osborne Bodden, and I look forward to the opportunity to represent the people of Boddentown East.
Visit voteforcommunity.ky to find out more about your Community Creates Country candidates and how they plan to make a difference on April 14th.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal with any sandwich or salad with a 20-ounce drink and waffle fries for an additional $3 or a 30-ounce or bottle drink and waffle fries for an additional $3.50. Subway, eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
The Ministry of Education provides funding to assist Caymanian children who turn 3 years old before September the 1st to attend an early childhood centre. This funding is available through the Early Childhood Assistance Programme, ECAP. Parents and guardians are now invited to submit ECAP applications for the upcoming 2021 to 2022 academic year. Application forms are available at the Government Administration Building, early childhood centres across the island, or online from the Ministry's website at www.education.gov.ky. For further information, please call the Early Childhood Unit at 244-3155. Completed application forms may be emailed to ecap@gov.ky, that's ECAP@gov.ky, or delivered to the Government Administration Building.
The committee to elect Mario Ebanks for West Bay West invites all constituents and the general public to a campaign rally this Thursday, April 8th at 6:30 p.m. at the Ed Bush Stadium parking lot. There will be guest speakers on important district and national topics. Light refreshments will be provided. Come one, come all to a campaign rally for West Bay West candidate Mario Ebanks. This Thursday, April 8th, 6:30 p.m. at the Ed Bush Stadium parking lot.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us in the studio, Mr. John Bothwell. This time he's wearing the hat over at DOE as the manager for Legislative Implementation and Coordination Unit, and also, can I say, the Secretary of the National Conservation Council?
Absolutely, yes.
All part and parcel of looking after the environment for our own enjoyment now, but for future generations. You know, when I'm 120 to celebrate my birthday, I want my, family around me saying, boy, you did a good job, But seriously, line fishing, many of us do it, not just for added sort of sustenance, a little bit thing to complement the dinner table, but for the sheer enjoyment. You're going fishing, not catching necessarily.
Yes, we recognize this is a recreational activity that is part of our culture. Yeah, like I say, and we're not anybody having any attempt to snuff that out. Okay. Absolutely.
All right, so as we look at that now, and as you reference DOE.ky, the website, look at the Marine Park section, you can drill down and the populates, you can see a bigger thing, if not get a brochure. But what are some of the specific things that you may want us to appreciate when it comes to this? So we can still do it except where we can't do it.
Right. I think the important thing I would appreciate is please get the map, download the brochure, pick it up, flag one of our enforcement officers, and get a copy from them. We're trying to make sure this information gets out widely, and we're going to be wrapping this up over the coming months as we get more material to give out to people. But the first step is get the brochure, go to the website, DOE.ky, and we've got the brochure with the maps. We've also got more zoomed in maps that people can look at and make sure they know where they can go fishing. Okay. So like I think you just mentioned Barkers. Yeah, the top part of Barkers is a line fishing zone open for fishing. It's also set up so you can shore fish all the way down to the point there in Barkers as well. That was something that we got back from members of the public through their representatives. That was important, and so it got included in the parks because these were designed over many years of public consultation. So obviously, we can't make 100% of people happy, but we were getting to the point where we were just moving things back and forth depending on, which interest was kind of at the meeting that day. So we've got them about as well as they can be done, we feel. It's a compromise, but a compromise includes a lot of places for people to keep shore fishing. So kind of all the way along the top part of West Bay until you get all the way around to Norwest Point is open for people. People can fish from the shore, keep fishing from the Iron Shore. Then sort of where the Marine Park used to be, the Marine Reserve, and starts there, and fishing is closed. Going around down to the Bight, we've saved a spot as a line fishing zone right down there in the Bight. So again, people can still fish from the beach looking for mutton snappers, or take their boat in there when it's a strong northeast breeze and get down to the Bight and fish from there. That zone is one of those ones where we actually combined it with a no scuba diving overlay zone. So people can still snorkel from the shore, but it's no scuba diving to sort of separate the user groups a bit. And in a sense, to preserve this area for fishing in the future. We don't want to see fishing get squeezed out of the uses of our marine ecosystems. You know, most of us who worked on this grew up fishing. We're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot too badly here. And then as we come down further along, down into Georgetown, right sort of north of the Georgetown Harbor is an area where you can fish from shore. It's a shoreline fishing zone, literally for standing up from shore and tapping the line out to allow people to keep doing that into that marine reserve there. As we come further along down into South Sound, we know a lot of people fish in that area. So the southern part of the Iron Shore there, heading towards Southwest Point, is a line fishing zone. Again, we encourage people to get the map so you know where you go and where it starts from, and that's for people to fish by boat or from shore. Then around Southwest Point proper is open. In South Sound itself, that is a marine reserve, so no fishing in South Sound itself, except we do have, again, another one of these line fishing zones with a no diving overlay over it to preserve it for both shoreline fishing from, say, the South Sound dock, but also people on the outside the reef, doing some bottom fishing. We're saving those spaces, as it were.
So you can fish there from the dock or outside the reef?
Yes,
okay.
And one of the things we've done with a lot of these line fishing zones is try to find those spots that the public have access to the shore to make sure shore fishing can continue.
All right. Mr. Bothwell, we do have a caller online as we talk about, shore fishing in the Cayman Islands. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, I got one question.
Yes, sir.
What has happened to all the skill pots, the cock pilot, the piggies, and the crabs?
I'm looking for skill pots now, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of what you're seeing is what happens when we get more and more people. All of these animals, some of it was over harvesting, but some things like the skill pots is probably just more foot traffic on those beaches in their habitats, and they're not going to like that very much. We know they're still around, but you're absolutely right. They're not there in the numbers like we used to see them. Kids going looking to catch them for fun, as a thing on the beach doesn't happen anymore. You've got to hit those beaches where people aren't going as frequently. And this is, unfortunately, there's some of these things where we know that the marine parks are not going to be enough. It's going to take other measures as a country to preserve these parts of our heritage or parts of our history, whether that's species-specific conservation rules in the case of some of the other things you've mentioned, or in the case of those fish pots, that's going to mean more kind of more public protected areas where people don't go. And, trying to tell Caymanians to keep off the beach is not something that DOE is going to be getting into. So it is going to be about finding these places and how we balance how people use them. But the need is going to be for a lot more area for people to be set aside for people in the future.
Yes, sir.
Well, I got another question. Don't you think with all of this, what I just heard here in the last 6-7 minutes, there needs to be a consistently, daily, nightly approach to getting all this information out to the public. And I'm saying, because all the information that was dispensed in the period that I've been listening, nobody is going to grab all of that up, and especially online.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think there needs to be a consistent, and I say daily, nightly approach to this whole thing, because I see people fishing in places that, and I don't know what they're fishing for.
Yes, sir. And I won't say it's going to be daily, but we are ramping up, or we will be continuing this information distribution over the coming months. This is not something we expect people to get right away. Absolutely not. And we will be, as you said, putting out more physical material as we go as well. That is, you're absolutely correct. We will be doing that. And this is the start of that information campaign. Obviously, we have a number of other items that DOE is talking about. You may have seen or heard us talking about the stone and coral tissue loss disease a lot recently. So I'm not going to say we're talking about marine parks every day, but we will be doing a lot more talking about marine parks in the coming months to make sure that people get this information. Yes, sir.
Well, I think you need to put it in 15-second sound bites consistently, raining down on the public, because a lot of the people who do this fishing, catching these little small fish, I don't think they know the difference in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, it certainly is something that we need to look at, and appreciate it. Anything else, sir, that you want to ask?
Well, no, I just think that with all the information that people need to know, there needs to be a more consistent approach to getting this information out. Doing once in every 6 months approach to it, it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks very much, sir. Thanks very much, and always appreciate waiting. We have a couple of comments and questions that have come in electronically, right? One wants clarification on whether line fishing from the shore reserve for Cayman zone can and everybody do it. I know there's some confusion thus far.
No, sorry. Everybody can line fish, or yes, not a there's no restriction about nationality as far as fishing with a hook and line goes.
Okay. And a license is required from anybody?
No, no licensing for fishing lines, nothing like that, no.
Okay, all right.
We've tried to keep just going fishing as simple and hassle-free for people as we can.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there's not a lot of people. I notice the follow-up questions that will probably come. I'm not saying that that's, those questions aren't going to be completely valid points of view, things that we might end up having to do, but for right now, we try to keep it simple.
So if you want to go fish on the shore, once you're fishing in the right place, maybe at some point we can, if there are any penalties, if you infringe any of the marine park legislation.
Yes. So the basic penalty for breaking the marine park regulations, breaking any part of the National Conservation Act, is up to $500,000 fine, 4 years in jail, and the loss of the equipment that you were using for the act. Obviously, this is at the discretion of the judge. No one gets hit with that maximum penalty, but it's there so that they can put what they feel is an appropriate penalty in place. And somebody with a spare gun that they've been using illegally, that's when that loss of equipment will usually come in, kind of thing. Okay. So it varies from incident to incident.
Okay, can I just perhaps read this one? In fact, I'll just read it as it's sent through. So good afternoon. So I'm so disappointed to learn of even more restrictions being placed on fishermen. How can it be fair and just to have laws and permit people to be jailed for taking 12 conch, yet there is almost no penalty for landowners destroying acres of red mangroves, which is the habitat for hundreds of fish and other sea life? Stop the harsh and unnecessary penalties on Caymanian fishermen and focus on the real problem: overdevelopment of 100,000 people and the wanton destruction of our mangroves and coastline.
That's a great issue to discuss. I'm glad the person sent it in. So, fixing the development problems of the not problems, I can't say that. Fixing the development issues of the country, I encourage them to go wholeheartedly for it. Talk to the Department of Planning, the new minister when they come in. There's Plan Cayman, which is all about that, deciding how we're going to develop. But they're absolutely correct that habitat loss in the Cayman Islands around the world is a major reason why we have less fish and everything else, including silkpots. They're absolutely right. But I just want to say that I would challenge them to find where somebody got thrown in jail for 12 conch. What they tend to see is when people have been repeat offenders, what the court starts seeing, you are causing a significant problem for the rest of us who want to be able to fish conch or anything else responsibly, and you're not following the rules. That's when the court tends to give real penalties.
All right. So as we go into the break, let's just quickly clarify. There's another caller? Well, in fact, let's do the call. Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, G. Good afternoon, man. How you doing?
Good, man. This is I think that's Mr. Bothwell in there.
We have Mr. John Bothwell, yes.
Okay, good. I've got a question because I was a bit taken back. Where his department was advertising for people to to do some diving and some relating to coral.
Yes, sir.
I was a bit taken back when I noticed that the what do you call it again? No, that the requirements was that he had to be a dive master and above. And I was just there sitting thinking, well, if they're going to be doing something like this, I mean, obviously they're not coral experts. We got all these young Caymanians that have been involved in the tourism industry that has their open water diver, whatever. And I would have thought that we would have been trying to care them, but as far as I can see, that ad was not for Caymanians, because how many Caymanians do we have that are dive masters and above? You know.
Well, that's what we want to find out with the ads, sir, and it's particularly ones who are looking for work. But the challenge with this is we need good divers. Someone with just an open water certification, someone who does a few dives a year. I hate to sound mean about this. You're not probably going to be good enough for us to trust you around the coral, working with it hands-on. If you're a Caymanian who's either in the dive industry and looking for the job, please apply. If you're a Caymanian who's not in the dive industry but you've got lots of diving under your belt, I think we have an experience quotient that we'll take as well of a significant amount of diving. But people who are dive like a fish, we're happy to hear from you as well, because what we need, we can handle the training them up on the technical side of things. This is the particular species of corals you're looking for. This is what it looks when it's sick. This is how you mix up the medical treatment for the coral and how you apply it. What we can't do, because we're scientists, is we can't teach them the good diving skills that people like our staff have built up over hundreds of dives on the reef. We need them to come with that skill already, and then we can give them the science part. So
But I understand that, but I want you to see where I'm coming from. This is why Caymanians did not apply for many of these jobs, and especially with government is becoming here. The government, and you're not the blame for all of this, but I'm just saying, here of late, you watch some of the adverts for jobs, and you can see that they're being tailor-made for other people and not Caymanians, and it's starting to irritate me very, very much, because here we are, they jump on the private sector. I mean, that ad should have come out and said, anyone experienced divers, and then you pull from the pool of what you believe to be experienced. But the turn-off right away is going to be dive master and above. And that is what my argument, that's my contention with that whole thing.
I understand what you're saying, sir, but we have a lot of Caymanian dive masters already. A lot of those young kids who are trained up are that. We've had staff in our department who are dive masters instructors because they did it when they were in summer working for the dive companies. But what we don't want is hundreds of people applying who just don't have the experience. So that's why we put the experience there up front. We want good divers.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, but thank you. And don't stop putting another hat on that I probably shouldn't right now. Don't stop taking government to task, though. I feel I can defend this advertisement. If there are other ones out there that you may have seen, I don't know them. I'm not even going to try to defend them. But just that one from the Department of Environment. But thank you for asking us about it.
All right, thanks very much. And this is where I think that I like what you shared, the thing of keeping each other or keeping the country accountable, from the elected to the appointed, from public sector to private sector. Mr. Wilson, we have a break to take, or we can keep talking? Wouldn't call. Let's go to the phone. I like it. He likes the callers. We love the listeners. Thank you for being a part of our discussion. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Rough and regular.
Yeah, well, it gets better.
I understand. I think it is Mr. Bothwell.
Mr. Bothwell, yes, from the Department of Environment as the manager for the Legislative Implementation and Coordination Unit. And we're talking about shore fishing, line fishing from the shores.
Okay, fishing. I just want to ask a question, because I grew up in the North Sound area, and in my time, sometimes them conchs used to be so big you had to pull them with two hands. And the lobsters, you had to do the same thing.
I hear you could ride the lobsters, man. That's true.
I'm asking the question because I have my own ideas about this lobsters and conch. Mr. Bothell, would you agree with me that not everybody in the Cayman Islands eat conch and eat lobster? Is that correct?
I assume that's a safe thing to say. There are probably vegetarians out there who haven't tried conch.
Yeah, because what they're saying is, that they're dying out in this area and thing. And I just lately, the last 2 years, I have been in areas, especially in the North Sound, including fishing, that I've seen people from are not, I ain't gonna call no nationality, but people that are not from the Cayman Island, not born Caymanians, fishing, and the little fish that they are catching on the line, you have to use a magnifying glass to see it. Caymanian, the youngest child that have little experience, that have grew up in Cayman, would not catch those fish.
And I hear the concern, but I think it's not a lack of us, educating people. Take not even small fish. Let's take certain types of fish. So we might go by the reef, or we might go fishing. Our fathers primarily would have said to us, well, we don't eat those, we don't catch those. They're pretty, leave them alone. It's not that they're poisonous or whichever, right? They could be very big. So we need to maybe do a better job at making all of us know the what and the wherefores.
Mr. Sterling, my thing with this is, I feel, me personally, it's only me personal feeling, that no one that is not Caymanian should be allowed to fish in the Cayman Islands. That is me personally, nobody else. Because you know why? You just said it yourself. You got to know what type of fish, because you can't get a fish. But I see some people that is not again from the Cayman Islands eat all kind of fish. In Cayman, would never eat those kind of fish.
Right. But also too, right?
There should be a restriction on the people that is fishing on the Cayman Islands, that they leave that to Caymanians alone.
All right. Well,
they're catching lobsters. You got to use magnifying glass to see them. In my time, I just told you, in the North Town, I would go down on Saturday morning. Me and some other friends of mine, I'll call the name, God bless the dead, Mr. Jesse Arch, myself, Mr. Billy Martinez, that is alive still today, and Kemp, other ones. That was our hobby, along with the Ramones.
Yeah.
The Ramones from Shaden Road, and we would go there Saturday morning with a bath pan, and we could catch 300 conch within 1 hour, no problem, in big broadleaf conch. The lobsters were the same way. Those days, we ate lobsters free of charge.
Yeah.
We had our lines there, and the drum was there with hot water. We just boiled the lobsters, scald the conch, and we ate to our heart desire. Now they're saying that, all of these are on the decline. Yeah, because people that are not from the island catch them, and sometimes they don't even use them. They just destroy them and throw them away. So I think the license should be issued to Caymanian alone.
All right. Well, as I hear you, I mean, maybe your practices in the past, or even our attempts at conservation now are to ensure that, we have something for the future. But I appreciate what you shared, and only out of respect for you and Mr. Bothwell's time, let's, pause there for a second. But thanks for the call, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bothwell, with a question, I have a lot more to understand and learn to be able to do it. Maybe at some point it'll be without the political, sort of inference and influence and the like. But it's for the public to appreciate what needs to be, to hand.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. We will be doing a lot more talking about the marine parks and everything that's related to that in the future. Absolutely. And we will be coming back to you at Radio Cayman because people listen. So we really do appreciate you fitting us into today, like you said, just to remind people that all of the shoreline of the Cayman Islands is not off limits. People can still keep fishing from the shore in places.
Right. I know you referenced the www.doe.ky website for up-to-date, accurate information. And as we get ready to wrap it up, quick question from online asking just for clarity, and I think I remember it. Can I fish from the Georgetown Harbour, from the dock up to and including Smithsbacker there from the Ryan shore there?
On the south side, no. So starting the south of the harbour is closed to fishing. That's the marine reserve. but there is that line fishing zone that starts up further south. Grab one of our maps, www.doe.ky, or get it from one of our conservation officers who'd like you to see if you're out fishing. It has where it starts, and it actually starts from...
So we could probably fish from Smiths-Barcadere on the shore?
Smiths-Barcadere is open. I want to say that it actually starts from the south side of the Dart Park. So again, where people can get down the shore to access and work their way south.
Good away. And just know where you are so that, we're thinking about future generations.
Exactly.
All right. And if you're Barkas, let me leave that alone. I very much appreciate you coming in. And, it's not an easy road to traverse sometimes, but if we do it properly, I know, for me, I say Barkas. Like Mr. Henry Bush said, we might spell it that way, but this is how we say it.
That's right.
So it's Barkas, and I hopefully everybody will be respectful of it. Maybe that's one of the challenges as the names disappear, the way that we know it. Where's Long Point anymore? Well, it's not given another name. All the spots have been a different time for a different story.
That is a challenge for the communication. But thank you for having us.
And to you, Mr. Rothwell, enjoy the rest of the week, and hopefully we'll catch you again in the studio talking about marine parks, line fishing, and who knows, we might get a sample some cassava cake. Let's see. I'm going to pause. We'll take a break. Are we ready for that, Mr. Bush? No, the other Mr. Bush. See him over there. When we come back, we'll ask you to join us. We have MP Mr. Edson Miller joining us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman brings you For the Health of It live with Tara Bush on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And if you miss it, you can tune in for the rebroadcast on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. Chlorodo Bleach is proud to sponsor For the Health of It. Mildew, no problem. Stains, no problem. Whites, no problem. Sanitary cleaning, no problem. Chlorodo Bleach has got you covered. For the ultimate clean, use Chlorodo Bleach. Available at Foster's Food Fair, 2 liters and 1 gallon sizes. Pick up your bottle today.
The ultimate clean is a Chlorodo clean.
Hello, West Bay. Hello, boys and girls. It's Rotary Central's Easter Extravaganza. The Easter story time will be at the Teacher Redley Powery Library in West Bay. The Rotary Central Easter Extravaganza, Saturday, April the 10th, commencing at 10:30 a.m. There will be the Easter story. In fact, many Easter stories. Easter goodie bags, Easter eggs, not forgetting the Easter bunny, and Easter snacks for all the children. Rotary Central Easter Extravaganza. Remember, Rotary opens opportunities.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Radio Cayman News. Another fire at the Georgetown landfill.
We're mobilised to a fire in a metal waste facility on the landfill site.
They noticed that the travelers were in unapproved areas of a quarantine property, and it looked like they had tampered with their monitoring device.
The Ombudsman has ordered St. Ignatius Catholic School to destroy all copies of a recording of a meeting with a member of staff.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Government reported the results of 267 COVID-19 tests on Tuesday. 1 came back positive, a traveler who will remain in isolation. Almost 54,000 vaccines have been administered locally to date. Turning to international news now, rioting in Belfast on Wednesday night was on a scale not seen in Northern Ireland for years, police have said. During several hours of violence, police officers were attacked, patrol bombs were thrown, and a bus was burnt. 8 officers were injured at an interface between Loyalist and Nationalist areas in West Belfast. Northern Ireland's power-sharing executive said it was gravely concerned by recent street violence and has called for calm to be restored. This year's French Open tennis tournament has been postponed by a week due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the French Tennis Federation announced on Thursday. The second Grand Slam of the year was originally scheduled to take place on Monday, May 17th to June 6th. However, France has recently entered a new lockdown with a series of new national restrictions in place as the country fights rising coronavirus cases. And an aspiring Hollywood actor has been accused of scamming millions from film investors by tricking them with fake Netflix deals to fund a lavish lifestyle. Zachary Horwitz, 34, was arrested on Tuesday by FBI agents on suspicion of running a $690 million Ponzi scheme. Mr. Horwitz, whose stage name is Zach Avery, allegedly raised funds from investors for film licensing deals with Netflix and HBO that did not exist. He was charged with wire fraud. If convicted, he could be jailed for up to 20 years. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Captain Roberts Clifton Foster, 1890-1968. Captain Bertie Foster was born and raised in Cayman Brac. He married Huldah Bodden, and to the union were born 7 children. Captain Bertie went to sea at an early age as a cook and obtained his captain's license in Jamaica in 1921. He later owned cargo ships. He was a pioneer in the Brac hotel business, opening the island's first hotel, Buccaneers Inn, in December 1955. He was a civic leader who donated his time to supervise the construction of the airport on Cayman Brac. His late years were spent entertaining his hotel guests and talking on his marine radio to his other ships. Captain Bertie will be remembered for his leadership in the development of Cayman Brac and his contributions to humanity and the community.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us now. For the next hour and 15 minutes, we want you to be a part of the discussion. I have the MP for North Side, Mr. Ezra Miller. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. You've been a very, diligent, concerted effort over the years. I've been hosting the show, coming in, as chairman of the PAC or just an MP, sharing your parliamentary knowledge, giving us a chance to appreciate the importance of civics, but, our governance model and how our legislators, pass and implement laws, as it were. So, thank you, and trust and pray you and the family are all well, sir.
Yeah, we're all doing well, and thanks for having me. And I look forward to an interesting conversation with you over the next hour and a quarter.
Yeah.
Doing what you and I both enjoy doing, trying to educate and inform the public about what we think should be happening or is not happening in the country.
Well, something that, if you don't mind, I can share publicly, nobody would, hold it against me, but I commend you for. You've been a champion for not just participatory democracy, but getting the public to openly talk about politics and civics and the importance of education and involvement, so that it's about understanding the process. Maybe it'll encourage more of us to not only get registered to vote, but at some point become directly involved in the political process. You've had over the years expressed, views about this whole issue of, the public participating, as you call it, participatory democracy, and the roles of district councils, especially on our side. I think from the outside view, you may have taken a flag for setting something up in order to get it running, being accused, well, it's not necessarily in keeping with the Constitution, but your views on...
Well, fundamentally, the whole basis of my political belief is that the people that I represent have an inherent right to be involved in any decision that I make on their behalf. And there's only one way to achieve that, and that is to give the people the opportunity to discuss whatever issue it is. And we do that. We've done that for years on our side, since 2009, through the district council, where we meet on a regular basis at the Civic Center, and we decide. Let me give an example. When we're doing the budget, we'll sit down at a district council meeting. Budget is usually done in November, December sitting. So we'll sit down July, August at a district council, and we'll decide from the public what are the things that we would like to see done in Northside over the next 2 years. And then myself and a few others will go off and take the responsibility of trying to put some cost and some timelines and implementation. And then we'll come back and there's a general discussion, and we'll say, okay, we'd like to have the dock in Old Manby replaced, right? We'd like to have the launch and ramp in Kaibo replaced. We'd like to stop the erosion of the beach at Kaibo, etc., etc. We'd like to fix this particular for the road. And then I prepare a letter. As you know, the Constitution provides that any district that is not represented in cabinet has the right to appear before cabinet and request the needs of the district. So we'll prepare that document, and then I'll submit it, and then sometimes the government pays attention to it, sometimes they don't. But when they come to Finance Committee, then it is my job to use my experience and try to get these things put in the budget. So that's a good example of how participatory democracy works. Same thing with legislation. Whenever the government proposes legislation, I take it to a public meeting in Northside, and the people come and we go through it clause by clause, and I tell them what I believe that means. They tell me what they think it means, and there's a general discussion, and from that then I take a position based on whether I will support the bill, whether I will try to get changes to the bill. Good example there was, for instance, the education law some years ago. I got the teachers together, came out of the regular meeting, and I got, I think it was 5 teachers from the community, came Northsiders. And some of those teachers were there till 2 o'clock in the morning with me going through the bill. We proposed 25 changes to the bill. I think the government accepted 22 or 23 to make it a better law. And this is what I practice, this is what I preach, and I think that's what the public need. Now, again, if you give the public the opportunity and they don't participate, we have to try and evaluate why that is. Is it because they came and tried to participate, but you really didn't listen, or are they just not motivated to take part? And we try to get people involved, and that's. But I believe that has always been the foundation of my whole political beliefs and experiences.
As you're speaking to MP for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller, it's important that we get this perspective, and having these conversations with you over the years have been not just education and informative, but I think it's important that we appreciate the need to participate within the parliamentary process. As an individual, you possess great acumen. I think former, it was EXCO member, but Minister for Health back then. I think you set the precedent relative to publicly consulting the people, as the politicians step in front and center and saying, this is the proposed policy, this is it, and taking it across the country, not just district to district. So kudos to you for that, man. With that though, for maybe the new voter, or for those who need to be reminded, there are particular unique experiences and qualifications that I think you bring to the table, and as a representative and MP for Northside, maybe you could share with us some of those.
Well, I think the country's at a particular important crossroads, and could drop off the precipice for where Caymanians are concerned if we're not careful in who we elect next week, Tuesday.
Wednesday.
I believe that all electors should be looking for honesty, integrity, commitment. This is not a part-time job. This is not an easy job. It takes commitment to the cause. It takes integrity of purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the person needs to have good morals, a good family man, goes to church on a regular basis to get thy sins forgiven, therefore, right? And you need to be willing to listen to the public.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we humans don't do good just by nature is listening. Most of us, when you're talking to me, I'm already formulating even before you finish your sentences what my answer is going to be, you know. But in addition to those moral characters, so to speak, right, which are very, very, very important. There was a Japanese scientist on CNN a couple of mornings ago who considered himself the new Einstein, right? But he had a particular, one of the questions that they asked him was, does he believe in God, right? And can he prove, is he trying to prove that God exists or doesn't exist, for instance? And he said, well, you know, there are two matters here. He believes that science has the ability and the responsibility to identify how the world was made. Religion, right, is there to prepare you to go to heaven, to take advantage of what God has put in place, which was an interesting dichotomy. But in addition to those things, and, you know, good Caymanian common sense was what built this country. But beyond that, just common sense, being able to look after it. I think you need to have a reasonable, certainly as a bachelor's degree, if not a master's degree, and other postgraduate qualifications now to adequately and properly represent your people in the parliament. Because the problems that Cayman face now are not simple problems. They're multifaceted issues, and you need to have some academic background to be able to analyze them and come up with proper solutions.
With that in mind, Mr. as a middle MP for Northside, as we chat, probably early 90s that I became aware of it. There was this talk. I thought it was public because I heard it, so maybe we're going to be going to 100,000. This is in the early 90s. Now there are some that, 2019, even early 2020, we probably had over 100,000 people easily. What's your view on the pace of development in this country at this stage, and in particular our population growth?
Well, I'm very perturbed and concerned about the pace of development. Not only is the pace too fast, but there is no plan, there's no coordination, there's no end game. The end game seems to be, well, how much money can somebody make? How much can I get out of it? That's if people are making money. I believe in planned development. I believe the country needs a proper population growth plan. I think it needs a physical development plan, which is really outdated now. What we're going on, but what we have now is really not a 1997 plan. You know, it's a 1997 plan modified hundreds of times for individual people, which is not the purpose of long-term fiscal planning anyway. If you're going to make any change to zoning and planning, it should be done at the community level with community involvement, etc. I believe we need to have a manpower development plan. I believe we need to have an economic plan. We just can't allow anyone who wants to come to the Cayman Islands and believes that they can make money in the Cayman Islands and we bend over backward and says, have a go at it, right? I think we need to determine where we want to go. We need to determine that we are going to slow things down enough for Caymanians to now catch up, but also to keep up. We need to, and everybody believes, and one of the current government in particular always talks and relies a lot on the economy is not a switch that you can turn on and off. That is not entirely true. I believe that if we manage development, we can turn the switch off. We can maintain the economic ability of Caymanians to participate, for Caymanians to own stuff, for Caymanians to grow their own wealth. Mm-hmm. If we have no management material, and again, we have to have, this has to be in terms of short-term, long-term, medium-term, long-term planning, so that when a developer comes here and says, well, I would like to build 400 apartments that I can sell, mm-hmm. just say to him, well, that doesn't fit with the plan, right? What Cayman is looking for is for Caymanians to do this kind of thing, and not at that scale, but maybe growth through 3, 4, 5 apartments as a part of their retirement plan, right? Or part of doing an investment for their children, mm-hmm. where the children will have a roof over their head, Because in the absence of any kind of planning, we get exactly what we have now, which is basically a runaway development. Mm-hmm. It's destroying the environment that we all love and protect. You had the marine parks people on here a little while ago. I support protecting the marine parks, but I want to see more emphasis on enforcement before we turn the whole island into a marine park. But I believe that a good developer, not a bad developer, only bad developers just want to explode it and quick gain and move on. A good developer, the kind of developers that we'd want to encourage the Cayman, would appreciate planning, right? Would understand the needs to manage the growth, to manage the infrastructure development, to match the growth, mm-hmm. manage the manpower development of Caymanians to match the growth, to provide jobs for Caymanians. Everybody's talking about, we need jobs for Caymanians. We don't need any more jobs, We need to get the jobs that are out there for Caymanians. Now, whether that's a matter of upskilling or better education, those are the things we need to address. Mm-hmm. We bring another hotel. The fact that Mr. Dart is going to build another hotel on 7 Mile Beach now means only one thing, He's going to import another 500-600 people, right? At slave labor, $4.50 per hour, right? And that cannot be good to this economy. So I believe that we need to manage the growth of the country.
You have on many occasions, not just here, but publicly, you talked about the granting of concessions to foreign developers in particular. Would you, again, expound on those views?
Well, you see, getting back to that, manage the development.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if we are going to offer incentives to developers, they must be for Caymanians first.
Okay.
First for Caymanians. But any policy that we develop should be a public policy.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to go to the Department of Commerce and say, what are the incentives for inward investment in the Cayman Islands? And they should be able to give me a prepared brochure. If you invest $10,000, you get nothing. If you invest $10 million, you get A and B. If you invest $100 million, you get A, B, C, and D.
Mm-hmm.
The root of much of the corruption in this country lies in that fact that every inward investor is allowed to negotiate his own concession deal. And not only is that troubling, but the fact that the politicians who sit in cabinet are leading the negotiations, right? Again, leaves a place of concern. As you know, we have tried through the Public Accounts Committee to get the Ministry of Finance and Development to publish these guidelines, right? In fairness to the civil servants. The civil servants have done the work, but they can't get it accepted as policy because the politicians want to be able to bend the rules, right? Give a little more here, and I think that's all wrong. That is the basis of corruption in this country. But it has to be, all concessions needs to be public. The public needs to know what they are. They need to be monitored. The Hotels Aid Law, lays out the criteria, right? But we don't fall under that.
Not to put you on the spot, maybe just for clarity, we had a discussion with someone earlier talking about concessions. Without speaking of the school, the person had said, and I don't know whether this was last year or late the year before, but similar recently, in a passing comment, shared that they were interested in doing some sort of development, some sort of project, and had approached the government to say, listen, if we do this, what sort of, did not use the word concessions, but that was what was implied. It appeared that concessions are not granted to the local Caymanian investor. To your knowledge, is that the practice?
That seems to be part of that undefined, unpublished criteria that exists, because I know of several Caymanians who have tried to do that. Part of the COVID economic requirement that has been going on that is troubling is this whole idea of this grant to small businesses and guaranteeing loans for big businesses. That worries me because, again, the criteria is not public.
Right.
If we are going to do that, we should be able to say to the public, this is the policy, these are the requirements to access this, and this is firstly for Caymanians.
Okay. And as we speak to MP for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller, having as you said, less than a week away from general elections and going forward, there are certain concerns facing the country, and Caymanians and residents alike as to where we are. We'd like to maybe get into some of that as well and talk about, not just your achievements in the recent years, but your work in the constituency, for the decades you've been there as elected member, as minister, but also, just as a community member. But as you go into it, what else would you want to share with us initially to the listening public, in particular voters in Northside?
Well, one of the things that the other candidates in Northside are trying to spread, the big lie in Cayman is that Ezra does nothing, right? When I said a big lie, somebody else didn't win the election, right?
Yeah.
To the north of us. But the big lie in Northside is that Ezra doesn't get anything done for Northside. Now, I will say without fear of successful contradiction that no other member of parliament has gotten more for their electoral district than I have gotten for Northside over the past 4 years. Maybe for the exception of Cayman Brack and Little Cayman in terms, and that would only be in two areas: the amount of asphalt road they got, and the other area would be the number of people on a government dole, right? Or free tickets from Cayman Airways. I don't complete much on them, but I mean, one of the biggest concern right now of Caymanians is access to the beach. Okay. Over the last 4 years, we have purchased 2 beaches in Northside, the Beaumiller Beach and the Jack and Miller Beach for Old Man, because Old Man Bay really didn't have a public beach, so to speak. Most of the public beaches were in the Cayman area. We are, I understand, in the final negotiations to buy another public beach in Rum Point. And if you look around at the number of public beaches that exist in constituency, Northside has about 3 or 4 times any other district in the island. And it is me who has negotiated with the government and gotten every one of them starting back from in the 80s, right? Because we believe that tradition, Northside is the only district that has an official campsite, which is Kaibo, for Easter campers. I did all that in the 80s, right? The other things that we talk about, the facilities that we need in the district. We've gotten the new bathroom facilities next to Starfish Point. Big battle with the landowners down there because they didn't want it, because many of them don't want us down the period. We've gotten, and some of this may seem like it's trivial, right? But if you come from fishing 12 o'clock in the day, I've been beaten outside of the reef there on a southeast to the north wind, burn up and down to catch a couple of old wives and squabs and maybe occasional mutton snapper. And you got to stand up by the dock in the broiling 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock hot sun to clean your fish. The fact that we now have a little shade with proper cleaning tables, both at Kaibo and at Frank Sound, I believe benefit is maybe just a few, but it's important to them. we've gotten quite a bit of road work. For the road has been improved. Should have been completed by now. But again, we're running into resistance from DOE and Water Authority because I want to put pipe water in there. So it's about 200 feet that needs to be completed, but that's probably going to cost 3 times what the rest of the road costs to complete because of the way that DOE wants it done and the Water Authority wants it done, because for some strange reason they don't believe that they can put their water pipes on the water. Anyway, so but again, but these are decisions that are made at the district council level with participation in the district as to what we're going to get. So I would say probably that the biggest thing for Northside is the purchase of those 2 public beaches and quite possibly a 3rd public beach in Northside for the people.
All right. When we come back from the break, could we maybe ask of you a couple of things? In particular, there are 50 candidates in total on the ballot. Some have been there before and what have you. And we're without question over the 19 constituencies seeing machinations amongst people. Maybe we could talk about, if elected or when elected, how you see it going, with whom you're prepared to work with, and give us a perspective, because at the end of the day, we kind of want to know what's going on. Yep. And would that be fine?
Yeah, man, that's fine.
All right, we're speaking to MP for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller. We put a question on the table, eagerly and anxiously anticipating the answer. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Department of Environment is appealing to the community to help combat the impact of stony coral tissue loss disease on the Cayman Islands reef ecosystem. Easter week is expected to see more water sports activities. Pathogens on dive gear and boats can survive for extended periods and be transferred among reefs. If you are diving or snorkeling anywhere in the Cayman Islands and before traveling between Grand Cayman and the sister islands, disinfect your gear and bilge water in a 1% bleach solution for 10 minutes before moving to a new location. For more information or to make any reports, visit doe.ky.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
It's the event of the season. Miss World Cayman Islands presents Bows and Stilettos, the soiree. Ladies, wear your favorite stilettos, and gents, wear your favorite bow tie Friday, April 9th at Georgetown Yacht Club, starting at 8 p.m., featuring live performances by guitarist Nathan Herrera. Music provided by DJ Lynn and Adam Skills. Limited tickets, $20 pre-sold at eventpro.ky, or $25 at the door. It's a Miss World Cayman Islands fundraiser with a silent auction. Join us for Bows and Stilettos, April 9th, brought to you by Bailey's and Sky Vodka.
Now you'll never have to choose between 2 desserts at Subway. The new caramel brownie cookie is 2 treats in 1. Imagine sweet, gooey caramel with decadent chocolate chunks baked in brownie-flavored dough and topped with a light drizzle of caramel icing. And you have the new caramel brownie cookie, available at Subway. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious caramel brownie cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert. Available at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended August 31st, various life cycle funds provided returns between 9.2% and 16.5%, and our all-in expense ratio is currently the lowest it's ever been, a record low at 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
The Ministry of Education provides funding to assist Caymanian children who turn 3 years old before September the 1st to attend an early childhood centre. This funding is available through the Early Childhood Assistance Programme, ECAP. Parents and guardians are now invited to submit ECAP applications for the upcoming 2021 to 2022 academic year. Application forms are available at the Government Administration Building, early childhood centres across the island, or online from the Ministry's website at www.education.gov.ky. For further information, please call the Early Childhood Unit at 244-3155. Completed application forms may be emailed to ecap@gov.ky, that's ECAP@gov.ky, or delivered to the Government Administration Building.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. In the studio, we have MP for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller, as we were chatting, and certainly appreciate you sharing with us. But if you don't mind us asking, I mean, of all of the other 49 candidates, we were interested to ask of you, who you would be prepared to work for, how you see it playing out. Could that be something we ask of you?
Yeah, man, I'm always willing to answer the question. Well, first of all, I can start in Northside, and the best person to represent Northside is Ezra.
Okay.
Right? Then, first of all, I strongly and fundamentally believe, and I've been campaigning, that we need a change in the direction of which the country is being developed, because Caymanians are being left behind. And the quality of life of Caymanians is being reduced daily. The cost of living is going up, etc., etc., etc. So to change that, we have to change the members of the government. So I'm not supporting anyone who is part of the Progressives or part of the alliance of the Progressives. I would like to see any of them get re-elected. Let's be frank here.
Okay.
So we'll start in Northside with myself. I'd like to see Mr. Arden get elected in East End. I'd like to see Osborne Borden get elected in Borden Down East. I'd like to see Christopher Saunders get elected in Borden Down West. In Savannah, either Heather or Malcolm represents a change from the current government direction. So I'll accept either one of those as thing. And Newlands, Mr. Wayne Panther. Prospect, again, you got Michael Miles and Sabrina Turner, both of whom would be a departure from what the government is currently going. Raid Bay, I'd like to see Sammy Jackson. Georgetown East, probably somebody like Christina in order to provide the change, because re-electing Roy is not going to change anything. But Georgetown South, Mr. Alric. Georgetown Central, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Georgetown West, Perlina. Georgetown North, Johan. West Bay South, again, either Andre or Raul represents change from the current government. West Bay Central, Kathy Ann. West Bay West, Mario. West Bay North, Bernie. Because if you, we have to be careful who the shadow alliance is to the Progressives and Alliance, right? And the reason why I would like to see these people elected is because I believe we could put together a government that could have a nice balance of experience and new blood, right? Mm-hmm. We could actually get 8 ministers from that group of 16 people, 4 of which already have cabinet experience, which would be myself, Ozzy, Ween, and Arden. Then we could bring on 4 new ones. Chris Saunders would be an obvious choice, as from my point of view, as Minister of Finance and Development. Then we can take on another new person like Johan, right? We could also take on probably Andre or Raul, right? And I think Bernie has earned the right to get a cabinet seat if he gets re-elected. And then we could have 4 new parliamentary secretaries, probably like people like Alric, Mario, Perlina, right? And Kenneth, so that we have, and in 4 years' time, us 4 senior people, those people say, take our leave, right? And we have 4 people then who have 4 years' experience in cabinet. You have 4 who have parliamentary secretary experience who could move into the cabinet positions because they would be trained specifically for the ministry to which they are parliamentary secretaries. And I think that the country could be well served over the next 8 to 12 years if we are prepared to develop that kind of succession planning, and old people, the elderly like myself, are willing to invest the time to mentor and train the new people, and also to accept the rush of new blood and new ideas that would come from those 8 new people. You know, so that's who I would like to see get elected. That's who I'm campaigning to get elected.
With that in mind, in terms of like the cabinet structure and like over the years, and I say this just as a sort of a somewhat casual observer, the civil servants as well as the wider community have commented that every time there's a new government, they seem to put the elected members of cabinet in spaces and fit the ministers around them. Yeah. So there's a name change, there's a reshuffle of portfolios, right? Any views on that? I mean, you say it's wrong, but...
Well, it is wrong, because you see, I don't think that politicians going into cabinet should be able to select their pet subjects.
To cherry pick someone.
Right. I mean, the fact that we have agricultural, education, and lands and survey and all in the same, that doesn't make a lot of synergistic. If I was put in a leader position, I would sit down with the governor and deputy governor and develop 8 ministries that have synergistic subjects in them, right? And then invite these people to, you take a ministry, and that ministry remains intact, right? So that the professionals in the ministry who are being trained, who are gaining the experience, stays there, right? I mean, when we do this musical shuffle with subjects, right? People who have expertise get shuffled to the side. And if we, just like how we would be investing in parliamentary secretaries over a 4-year period, investing in 4 new cabinet ministers, we should be investing in civil servants who are gaining expertise and experience in managing these subject matters and the various government boards or public authorities or government-owned companies that fall into those criteria. And we should try to keep within each portfolio, each ministry, those subjects that are synergistic, which help each other, which benefit from each other, right? And the job of the premier is to manage and make sure that things flow properly, and the deputy governor from the civil service. But this idea that, I mean, just the accounting nightmare that goes on when we take subjects out in the middle of the financial year, right? Is because right now we change up the ministries now, right? In the middle, right in the middle of the financial year, because the financial year doesn't end until the 31st of December, you know, right? And then there's all kinds of excessive effort and time that has to be spent to try to get the accounts balanced out and prepared, and who's accounting for what, etc., etc. So I would like to see us sit down and we develop ministries, and those ministries stay intact.
So you got the consistency, you got the level of sort of going forward. We know who's where and what it is, and the portfolios and the departments are all sort of in maintenance relative to the expertise and experience you talk about for the technicians.
Yeah.
All right, well, those are maybe fundamental changes that seemingly could be easier implemented.
Well, you see, again, I believe that we have to be committed to effectiveness and efficiency and good governance. Jumping subjects around because I would like to have this subject, right? But I'm in a ministry that it really doesn't fit, can't lead to effectiveness and efficiency or good governance. You know, and it has to be a determined, committed act to do that.
Well, that precedence then give us as voters, but as also aspiring politicians, to know that these are the areas of, you know, where we can serve our interests. All right.
Mine, I could probably get a lot of phone calls and I leave you about the people that I name. But, you know, you ask me a question, I'm going to answer honestly and forthrightly.
Well, you know what?
That's my modus operandi.
You always talked about openness and transparency.
Yes, that's right.
Accountability and responsibility. And as voters, we're going to go to the polls and we're going to mark our ballots according to hopefully our conscience of what we think is best, right? So those people get elected, well, you share the perspective.
One of the things that we have to remember as an elector, as a voter, that when we go into that little square and we pull the curtain behind us, it is only yourself and the good Lord looking over your shoulder. Nobody else knows or can trace who you vote for. So when you go in there, vote your conscience. Don't vote because somebody gave you something or somebody promised you something. Vote for what you believe is best for your future, your family's future, the community's future, and the country's future.
Well, if I may join you in saying, that I would ask all of us as registered voters who are eligible that day, please go to on election day next Wednesday and mark, deliberately mark our ballots.
Yep, you may be the one vote that was needed to make the change, but because you didn't go, right? And in my particular constituency, one of the things that the Northsiders need to understand that a vote for Justin or a vote for Deborah is a vote for Jay. So don't take no chances. Vote for Ezard.
With that, Mr. Miller, there's much discussion, and we would like to maybe ask of you as well. We are where we are now, but there's going to be election, and something's going to happen at some point, and the country is going to try to get back into the fray. So post-pandemic, what are some of the important issues that we're looking at?
But you see, I think that, we have had two opportunities in recent times to reset Cayman for Cayman and Caymanians. Hurricane Ivan gave us that opportunity. In my humble opinion, the governments who came into office after Hurricane Ivan blew the opportunity, the many, many opportunities that existed to manage the growth of the country, to manage the development of the country, to manage Caymanians' involvement in the country, to benefit Caymanians, to promote Caymanian ownership, to promote Caymanian wealth, and not by giving foreigners status and calling them Caymanians. I'm talking about promoting the Caymanians who are already here and who already are Caymanians, giving them the opportunity. I believe that COVID, as bad as it is worldwide, and we've been extremely lucky here.
Very blessed indeed, yeah.
I think that the fact that for two reasons, not having a genius of the present government, but because they did accept and follow UK regulations, but because of the Caymanians' acceptance of the rules, because of the discipline, because of the behavior of Caymanians. That's why we're successful with COVID and keeping COVID out. Right? You look around many other countries, that's the problem they're having, is because the citizenry are refusing to accept the guidelines that the government put out. Yes. And many of the government guidelines seemed draconian at the time, but I supported them because I believe they were necessary. I have 1,000% praise for the Caymanians who followed those guidelines.
We were civil, we were obedient, right. we were responsible.
That's right.
Yeah.
We accepted we could only go to the supermarket at certain times and certain days and certain orders. We did it. We were successful. Now the economic recovery from COVID gives us another opportunity to level the playing field for Caymanians. Well, I'm no longer interested in leveling the playing field. I want the playing field to be in favor of Caymanians. Largely in favor of Caymanians. Greater more in favor of Caymanians. We have an opportunity to restrict the number of permits in bite-sized pieces. We have the opportunity to slow down the growth and inward investment and the foreign ownership of the country and the foreign ownership of the economy. Of great concern to mine is that we are allowing inward investors to create vertical economies. And those vertical economies shut out Caymanians when it comes to ownership. They can only be employees of that vertical economy and accept whatever crumbs or they give to Caymanians in there. I think we need to be serious. We need to have, in a government that I am a part of, after next week, Tuesday, I will be leaning heavily on them to within 30 days come out with a 90-day plan for recovery. And Caymanians' benefit must be at the top of that. Followed by a 6-month plan, followed by a 1-year plan, followed by a 5-year plan, developed over time. and we are going to involve the public. There's nobody else in the government. We'll go district to district, town hall to town hall, and get input and sell and get these people involved. I will do it, right? And we follow that plan so that when we look back 5 years from now, we can look back with a certain amount of joy, a certain amount of pleasure that we took the opportunity that COVID provided us to restructure the Caymanian economy for greater Caymanian ownership, greater Caymanian wealth, greater Caymanian opportunity.
And I think, ownership of a country by its people will lead to greater stability, social harmony.
And that should include things like how we are going up to open up the borders, what the conditions are for allowing cruise ships in. I think we have a golden opportunity to go back to where we were when I was in government in the 80s. No more than 4 cruise ships a day, right? No port, redeveloped our tender system, improve that, make that a unique experience in Cayman, part of your experience at Cayman. I don't have a problem with multiple tender ports. If we have a number of people who go into the turtle farm, let the tender take them down there and let the buses bring them back into town to reduce the traffic on the road. But this is the kind of planning we need to do, right? If they're going to be mega cruise ships, we shouldn't be no more than 1 or 2 a day, right? Because we have to go for quality, not quantity.
Enhance customer experience.
That's right.
All right. And then as you talk about reopening of the tourism sector, I mean, the cruise ships obviously front and center. But what about the rest of the tourism sector and reopening the borders?
But again, I think we have a great opportunity in reopening the hotels. Excuse me, to get back to Caymanian.
We are speaking to MP for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller. So extended conversation. Go ahead.
To get back to Caymanian participation. I can remember when Caymanians did all the work in the tourism industry, right? And they did it exceptionally well. What did they do? They built relationships, right? This thing they got in Glitton Lights area called Caymankind, that's not what our tourism was about. We may have had people who complained because there was a cockroach in the old Royal Palms Hotel, But when they were leaving on their day-to-day vacation, they were booking the next year vacation to come back. And when they came up to the counter, they asked for the people who were there last and where they are. We developed relationships with these people, right? So there was some continuity. Caymanians, the fact that we are importing people to work in our tourism industry is ridiculous, right? When we have Caymanians unemployed, I can train somebody to clean a hospital room, right, properly in less than a day. I believe I can train them to clean a hotel room in less than a day too, right? And most of us don't need a lot of training because we clean the people at home start with, right? But these are the things that we need to do. I mean, you go around to these hotels here now and ask some bartender for a yellow bird, right? Or a cubata. They have no idea what you're talking about. And if you don't come out of a can or out of a machine, they can't help you, And get back to that relationship and that customer services in that facilitating. Caymanians used to facilitate people, help them out, They asked one of the West Bay women that was cleaning the rooms, where can I go to get the best fish and fritters? She tell them, don't worry about that, John, I'm going fishing tonight. I'll bring you fish and fritters tomorrow morning. She brought them.
Yeah, without any expecting anything.
So those are the kind of things that we have an opportunity here. And the same thing with the construction industry, right? We should be able to get Caymanians into the construction industry. Most of the people that I see here and work permit in the construction industry really don't know what they're doing. The quality of the work is atrocious. There's no pride in what they're doing. It's just a day's pay, right?
Okay. Now, when we look at that whole thing, we're seeing that infrastructure development, but also, in particular, traffic congestion. My heart goes out to all my friends and family, outside of West Bay. You guys have it.
But I mean, the last 4 days has been very pleasant. I had a breakfast meeting yesterday morning at 7:30 with some very good friends of mine. I left my house 6:45. Drove right in. Why? Schools were closed.
Yeah.
Right? Schools were closed. Right? So one of the things that I believe we could do come if not, well, Easter holiday, if September, instead of government giving cash to the private schools, tell the private schools that the government's going to provide busing for the children. Because you can't have staggered work times if school, because the children got to come in. The parents in the Eastern Districts got to come in to bring the children to school. So that ain't going to work. But the mere fact that we can take that traffic off of Walker's Road and that rush to get their children to school from the Eastern Districts, I believe would do much to alleviate the traffic.
So getting the funds then, get the buses. We do have a couple of people waiting on the phone, Mr. Bill. You want to take some calls? Or because we got a lot to go through, and I can see maybe we get to it later on. See where we are.
No, I prefer not to open up the phone.
Yes,
because we go and get distracted from
all right.
And
respectfully, I do appreciate that. And to our callers, my apology, like we did yesterday. This is a paid segment, and
that's not because that I don't want to talk to people. We have a couple of things that we'd like to get through, and if we get through in the next 10 minutes, then we'll open it up for the last 15 minutes for phone calls.
Let's look at that. But as you've been on the show many times, and the phones have been open always, but this is a campaign meeting, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
All right. We know that, and I was reminded by one of our elder statesmen that even as early as 1984, or even before, the Master Ground Transportation Plan, Captain Charles and I were having a discussion about that. We saw it in the late 80s. What's your view relative to maybe looking at that relative to the infrastructure?
But again, yes, it goes back to the government I'd like to see do planning, right? I mean, one of the things that frustrates me is the length of time it takes to get anything done now, right?
Yeah.
Well, we had 2 years since the motion was brought to do something about the importation of vehicles, right? And we were going round in circles and nothing has happened, right?
Yeah.
So part of that 30-day plan, 6-month plan, etc., has to be an adjustment of traffic and going back to implementation and completing the East-West Arterial Way, for instance, which was always part of the Master Ground Transportation Plan,
right.
And stuff like that, in order to facilitate the reopening of the country. We need to look at all aspects of our infrastructure and stuff.
Definitely, when we're thinking now, finally, I think we start to recognize the cost and consequence of housing and the like, especially not for Caymanians, but young Caymanians in particular. Any particular views on that? On housing, access to housing.
Again, we have to. There's two levels of housing that we need to encourage the development of. We need to encourage the private sector to find a way to build houses that young Caymanians as single-family homes can buy for less than $300,000 based on the salaries that we currently get out there, right? Then we need to address the lower-income people, the people who are on minimum wage and stuff like that. And we have to find a way to be able to build a good quality house that can stand up to hurricanes, that can be expanded as a family grows or whatever, that we can deliver to a certain sector of our population for less than $100,000. And I am convinced it can be done. Right?
Okay.
We just need to spend the time and the effort and take the profit motive out of it. Right? Because we have one of the things that when you and I was growing up, our parents always told us, mama can have, daddy can have, sister can have, brother can have, but what you have that matters to you. And one of the things we need to get back to is that inculcation in our young people, especially our young professionals, that owning a piece of Cayman and having your own house is an important aspect of growing up.
And I think as we share, we start to realize how important it is for more of us and the desire for more of us to want, but then whether the availability of land or access to the appropriate financing, and even just having the...
Well, and again, we have to come up, the whole idea, the system that we have now, where the banks give you a long-term loan based on short-term deposits with a high risk to them. We have to find a different way of funding homes and stuff. And there are several proposals out there by certain candidates, and one of those that I support is the maintaining of the pension funds on the local market and controlling the spread at what the banks can charge you based on what they're paying, etc. So again, I believe that there are solutions out there. We just need to have the political will to do it and not sell ourselves to every foreign investor who wants to come here and make money
at the expense of the long-term development of the country and its people. All right, well, makes sense. Now, as we go into the news break, we come back, maybe we can talk more about things that you championed before, the idea of strategic thinking and planning for the long term, the notion of how we use in our public spaces, access to those spaces, from the beach to the parks to the natural trails that we may have ignored, and then ask you to share with us, as you wish, because the elections are not that far away, and people want to be as informed as possible, and then ask you to maybe revisit some of the things that you want to see from our side, some of the things that have been achieved, and share with us, if you so choose, upcoming events. All right, we have in the studio MP for Northside, Mr. D. Ezra Miller. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
Things just got a bit hotter on the island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
Water Authority Cayman would like to inform its customers that the public water service in Cayman Brac will be interrupted from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on Thursday, April 8th, and on Friday, April 9th. The service interruption will take place to facilitate investigative work on the Cayman Brac distribution system. The Water Authority apologizes for any inconvenience this interruption in service may cause and thanks the public for their patience and understanding.
Why work with a Suriba agent? We can tell you that those letters represent a proven understanding of the real estate market in the Cayman Islands. But it also means so much more than that. Our trained Suriba agents are committed to ethics, integrity, and excellence of practice. It's all about confidence, knowing you are working with a qualified Suriba agent. As members of Suriba, your trust is our promise. To find a Suriba agent today or to search thousands of listings, visit Suriba.com. Suriba, the mark of excellence in real estate.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest updates, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Effective Monday, April 12th, the COVID-19 vaccination clinic at Oriah will be offering dose 1 and dose 2 vaccines to all persons 16 years and over, regardless of surname. Photo ID showing date of birth is still required. However, persons no longer need to provide identification to demonstrate they are ordinarily and legally resident. Operational hours at the Oriah COVID-19 vaccine clinic have also been extended to better accommodate the public's varying work schedules. You can check out www.hsa.ky/public health/coronavirus for new clinic hours. Turning to regional news now, Russia might come to the rescue of the rebels it backs in eastern Ukraine, a senior Kremlin official has warned. Ukraine's Donbas region has been a flashpoint since the separatists seized swaths of territory in 2014. Low-level sporadic clashes between the rebels and Ukrainian forces have broken out in recent weeks. Each side accuses the other of violating a ceasefire. The European Court of Human Rights has backed the Czech Republic in its requirement for mandatory preschool vaccinations. The case was brought by families who were fined or whose children were refused entry to preschools because they had not been vaccinated. In a landmark ruling, the court found that while the Czech policy interfered with the right to a private life, there was a need to protect public health. All the cases predate the pandemic. However, the issue of routine childhood vaccinations has come under increasing scrutiny due to the spread of COVID-19. And Khloe Kardashian has said she tried to get an unfiltered photo removed from social media because she feels almost unbearable pressure to meet the impossible standards set by fans. The reality TV star and influencer wrote on Instagram, "In truth, the pressure, constant ridicule and judgment my entire life to be perfect and to meet others' standards of how I should look has been too much to bear." Her revealing statement follows an attempt to take down an image of her in a bikini that was posted, quote, by mistake. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center invites you to join them on Sunday, 11th April for their first annual Turtle Crawl 5K Walk and Run. All funds raised from the event will support the conservation of green sea turtles in the Cayman Islands. So come on out and show your support. Learn more and register now at www.turtlecrawl.ky. Proudly sponsored by HSM, Rotary Central, Gatorade, and Radio Cayman.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program, because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us in the studio as a part of our continuing paid political segments for our politicians. We have Member of Parliament for Northside, Mr. Ezra Miller. And I cast our minds back for over the years when almost on a regular Thursday you were here in the studio, not as chairman only of the Public Accounts Committee, but just as a member of Parliament sharing with us. So again today, as we continue, share with us. At some point we want to ask about minimum wage and the like, but before we get there, if there's another issue or comment that you want to share, Mr. Miller?
Well, I would just like to mention one other thing before we deal with the minimum wage. One of the other things is that the opposition is campaigning against me at Northside is I'm not involved with the young people and this and another thing, right? I am currently the vice president of Aidan Moyle Primary School, right? So I know what's happening at the school. I can represent the school. I'm involved with the teachers. I'm involved with the children at the school. I'm the secretary to the Clifton Hunter High School, PTA, so I'm involved with that and knows what's going on, right? My daughter, my eldest daughter, goes to Clifton Hunter High School. She's doing exceptionally well academically, exceptionally well socially. My younger daughter goes to Aidan Moyle Primary School. Again, she's doing exceptionally well academically and exceptionally well socially. And one of the things that we need to do is to stop bad-mouthing public schools. I'm not telling you the public schools are all perfect. They have some issues, and we're dealing with the issues as we go along. And one of the things that we need, any child going to government school who has sufficient parental involvement is going to excel in school, at those schools. The teachers are capable, the facilities are there. The other side of the community that I'm involved in is the senior citizens. Now, I spend my Tuesdays with the senior citizens at the Civic Center. We bring them out and to the Civic Center. We have a little devotion. Oftentimes, I have to do the preaching if the ministers don't show up, but I do what I have to do in order to help and entertain and stimulate the senior citizens. We provide them with a hot meal. We play a couple of games of bingo. We invite other people in to talk to them about health issues. We talk about exercise. We talk about lifestyles. We get them involved in arts and crafts. We take them out on trips outside of the district to visit other people, etc., etc. Now, those in between those two age groups, say from 45 down to 25, I help on an individual basis, but that's between me and them. I don't publicize what I do for people in that age group. Just this morning, before I came here, right, I dealt with 4 different people within that age group with 4 different issues that they needed help with for government. But that remains private and confidential between me and them, because that is not something that I have ever practiced or ever believed that I should try and get political advantage from. Right? So that's the second big lie that's being told about Ezra the North Side, is that I don't do anything for the people. But, you know, if somebody has to come to me to look help, I just think it is wrong. You know, my mother used to tell us to be generous to your fellow people, but don't be braggadocious about it. Mm-hmm. If I do something for you, you're not going to see it on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. Mm-hmm. But when you do things like the community involvement, I'm involved with the PTA, of course, that can be public, because that's of more general nature. When I do things for the district, when I stand up in Parliament, make a speech, or blah, 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 absolutely, that's all public. But you will never hear me making personal reference to people and things I have done for them. That's just part of my modus operandi, mm-hmm. as is participatory democracy. But we had the COVID injections. Mm-hmm. I was the one who called up the government and said, listen, you need to come out to these senior citizens in the districts, and got that all organized. We organized it. Neither of the 3 candidates showed up to any of them to help at all. Right? They know we have the senior citizen program there. They're all going around talking about Ezra won't build an old people's home in Northside, because every time I survey the people, the old people, the senior citizens,
the ones who would want it,
they don't want old people's home. It is the younger people who don't want to look after them who want old people's home. So I'm confident that I serve and have served the Northside community and the whole Cayman Islands to the best of my ability. And like I said, I'm confident, I'm proud, I'm comfortable with the positions I have taken. And those positions, you know, like you asked me about who I'd like to see get elected, I don't need to beat around the bush. I just told you who they were, you know.
You know, that sort of...
But you were asking about minimum wage, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, the real minimum wage in this country is $4.50. U.S. Because that's what I see advertised in the paper. Mm-hmm. And they're allowed to be exempted from the $6 CI minimum wage because they get gratuities. The whole formula by which we establish a minimum wage in this country is wrong. Mm. The last time it took nearly 2 years to negotiate, and this is the thing, was negotiated between the business people and the government. You know, the employees who suffer from the low income wage were never consulted, right? So I believe that part of what we need to do is to change that formula. And that should be something that is, the minimum wage should be something that is established by the Government Economics and Statistics Unit, because they have the facilities and the abilities, and they do the cost of living and all that sort of thing. They go there, they know what the prices are in the supermarkets because they do the annual thing. And what I'd like to see the minimum wage somewhere around $12 an hour now, and then when the new government establishes a new minimum wage based on the Economic and Statistics Unit calculating what it should be, I think it should be linked to the CBI. Right? Because here's what's happened. Every time you raise the minimum wage to improve income at that sector so they can have greater purchasing power, the business people put the prices up. If the business people put the prices up to know that the minimum wage is going to follow their prices, I believe they'd be less enthusiastic about simply looking for profit at the top and increasing the wages. I mean, I know people who work in the private sector and have been in jobs for the last 10 years and haven't gotten a pay increase, whereas the price of milk has gone from $3 to $7, $8. And again, I think that part of the whole adjustment in the cost of living has to be to find a way to improve the income levels of Caymanians, increase the income. Because the only people you hear complaining about the cost of living is the people who are making the money. The accountants and lawyers and all the people that are making the millions per year, right? They're not complaining about the cost of living, right? So we need to find a way to improve the purchasing power of Caymanians by raising their income, but also adjusting it so that it can't just be wiped out
by price increases.
There's not a lot that government can do other than those kind of policy adjustments within the labor market. Because removing duties doesn't help. I would hazard a guess that every time the government has removed the duty off of food stuff, etc., for Caymanians, the price has gone up at the supermarket at the next shipment. And that started from the first one was done by Mr. Norman Borden when he removed the duty from water, right? And I went around and wrote down the prices in the supermarkets the week before it was done. I went back 2 weeks later, and the price, everyone had gone up in price, right? So we need to have, some of these things need to be negotiated, yes, with the business people so that we can manage it. But it needs to have a self-adjusting mechanism that balances it and regulates it.
So as the inflation increases, then... Okay.
Yeah.
And then you want to increase the purchasing power, the disposable income that the workers have when they go to the... All right. With that, though, I mean, we're seeing... Well, there's a few minutes left in the program. I apologize. I get lost in your, listening to you.
Well, give me a chance. I talk all day about some of these subjects,
But this is where I think sort of political discourse, civics education, but understanding your governance. Well, maybe not for everybody, but
you see,
for me.
One of the things that frustrated me, particularly about the progressive government and or unity government, whatever they choose to call it, in the last 4 years, is the inability to get things done.
Okay.
It just takes forever to get things done. No, if I tell you I can do something, I can give you a time frame. If I ask you to do something for me, I want a time frame. We're going to agree on a time frame. I expect to get it done in that time frame. I mean, I'll give you a current example. Got a problem in billing out the road, not widening the road. We're just billing the road in a proper place at One Waterkey Road. We got a couple of water meters that need to be moved, right? And we went to the owners of the property. So you need to move these water meters get a plumber to move these water meters because they're in the roadway. They agreed. They called the plumber. The plumber came, said, listen, I can move these in jiffy for you, but I need to call the water authority because the water authority need to be here because we're moving the whole water meter onto your property out of the road. He calls the water authority employee goes up there and tells the people that, well, you don't need to pay how this moved, you need to pay this plumber to move this, NRA want this moved, the government will pay for it. Well, I went and saw the director. In fairness to the director, she called the supervisor, I would assume, while I was in her office and said, you need to correct this. But they haven't corrected it. Yesterday I called because we're getting now to a part it's becoming crucial in order for the work to continue to flow. I called about a small pipe that they had busted. And I said, we need to deal with this issue. Oh, well, I sent an email, right? And, have you seen the train of emails going back and forth? No, I don't want to see the emails. I want the job done. The civil service believes now, if I send an email, I've done my job. I pass it on to somebody else. There's no commitment to getting the job done, right? And in a kind of reasonable time frame, right? And it's just frustrating. You know, in the good old days, somebody would have gotten in a water toilet truck that government is paying for, drove up there, right? And their argument is, no, we send all these emails around, but what we're really waiting on is for the people to fill out a request form, say they want it moved, you know. I said, well, please get in your truck and go up there and carry the form and ask them sign it. We need it done, you know. So that's the frustrating part. But again, I think that it takes political will. It takes a new mindset. And re-electing any form of progressive and alliance and more alliances not going to change the fundamental way the country is going. If we are going to change that, we have to elect a new crew, right? And we have so you need some experience in it, like myself, right? So I'm expecting, and I'm fairly confident that the people on our side will return me to the polls. I've visited most of the houses in Northside over the past 6 weeks. I want to thank the people for their reception, allowing me to disturb their evenings when they're getting ready to sit down for a family meal, etc., and for how cordial and pleasant it has been, right? But I expect that come Thursday, after the election, I will still be the Member of Parliament for Northside, and I want to say this again to Northsiders. Do not vote for Justin. Do not vote for Deborah. That's a vote for Jay. You know Jay cannot handle the job. You know who I am. You might not like everything about me. I am not perfect, but I get the job done, and I am not going to embarrass you. I can represent you in Northside. I can represent you in Georgetown. I can represent you anywhere in the world. I have the experience. I have the education. I have the commitment. I have the morals. I have the ethics to represent Northside people. And I'm humbly asking every Northsider on that registered list, all 826 of you, 836 of you, to vote for D. Ezard Miller come next Tuesday. We need to change the direction the country is going, and the only person who has stood up in Parliament for the last 4 years for Caymanians, for Cayman, is Ezard. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, D. Ezard Miller, MP for Northside. Thank you for your time. We'll pause and take a break. When we come back, rejoin us as we'll have the company via telephone of Mr. McKeever Bush.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
Why work with a Sariba agent? We can tell you that those letters represent a proven understanding of the real estate market in the Cayman Islands. But it also means so much more than that. Our trained Sariba agents are committed to ethics, integrity, and excellence of practice. It's all about confidence, knowing you are working with a qualified Sariba agent. As members of Sariba, your trust is our promise. To find a Sariba agent today or to search thousands of listens, visit Sariba.com. Sariba, the mark of excellence in real estate.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And join us now via the telephone is Mr. McKeever Bush. Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Green.
How are you today?
Thanks to you and our listening public. I am good, and I want to dig right in since you only gave me 15 minutes.
All right, sir.
I want to address a few things here, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if I'll be able to get to the phone lines or not, but I need to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the DART agreement to close the road to get the public beach we now have. That was the old discussion, but it has been raised again by my opponent, who seems to be yapping at these things all the time. Let me say that the hotels are aimed at bringing high tourists for high-end tourism, which means more expenditure in our islands and employment for Caymanians. We know, as we experience it every day, how better West Bay is with more entrances in and out of West Bay and the bypass. Now, today, there are no traffic jams, and our ability to get to town in 15 minutes versus our people in the eastern districts getting children up 4 a.m. to get to town makes a world of a difference in our lives, cutting our daily stress levels. That agreement gave us land for government use, cemeteries, new police station, and land for new schools. Plus, what Cayman Bay offers for families is a very clean and safe environment, a place where they can go and be more relaxed with small children and teenagers. Millions have been invested in the school there, the international school, I think it's called, where those that can afford it can get an excellent education. And so government don't have to spend our money on those kinds of facilities and paying for that kind of education there. The scholarship program that funds means that Caymanians have more opportunity to get tertiary level education at renowned international universities. The airport connector road is now started, which will alleviate us in West Bay getting bogged down in traffic jams traveling to the airport. Now, there are 2 hospitals are going to be built there. One with 70 beds and one with 160 beds. We can pray for good health, but what it means for our West Bay district and the 7 Mile Beach corridor community, for instance, is that should we need any kind of emergency medical care, it will be available and reached to us within 10 minutes because of a better road system I fought to put in place, and then having these 2 new hospitals built. I know I have vision. I have been in the lead, made my mistakes, but I have done well for my country. I do not apologize about the things that I have fought for, and the things that I have put in place for the betterment of everyone in our Cayman Islands, the things that I have stood up for on the international level to deal with problems that Cayman had, and maybe some of them they still have. But I know I have the vision. My opponent is one of them still castigating me and accusing me of some kind of wrongdoing for getting those kind of modern amenities that I have spoken of for our West Bay community. Where there is no vision, our people perish. I wanted a small, special cargo free port zone with the opening of a modern Panama Canal and the shipping being improved and having to pass by Cayman. It means we would have meant thousands of jobs for our people. Now we have thousands of our people unemployed. I wanted a new airport. We have some of that now. And a modern terminal for private jets to access more European direct travel than just the UK as we have now. Wealthy people, multinational million-dollar companies, they have private jets and 300-foot yachts. They bring money here, and Caymanians would benefit. Those 2 projects would have brought millions of revenue to our government treasury and thousands of jobs for Caymanians that we do not have now. I want high-end construction with some more height so as not to take up more space of a very limited land mass we have in our small island. I want a sensible, sustainable balance between our development we must have and the environment we must live with in the present and leave for our children and grandchildren in the future. we can have new industry. The necessary conditions to cope with the climate change we are experiencing. We need jobs and career and business opportunities for our young people. We can't get them by being negative, cussing each other and accusing everyone in authority, as I see happening now. We can't get it by complaining about the foreign investors we are getting. If so, let the failed programs and destructive attitudes of the opposition win next week and see how well off Caymanians will be and what you will get for the future. The schemes of those who objected to everything that was attempted to give permanent employment and good career opportunities cannot be ignored. We have to tell the people about those kind of people we hear promising all kind of things today. The likes of my opponent, who has done nothing for national development, done nothing to create jobs for people, cannot be just overlooked. Really, I can ignore him now, as he was ignored in 2000 and as he was ignored in 2005. We can have a better Cayman for the future with jobs and career and business opportunities for the present and for the future of our youth. But you will not get it with the negativity being carried on. As I have said often, you shouldn't cuss your neighbor but want to borrow their bicycle. Dwayne,
yes,
there are a number of things I want to highlight on education and how we tackle the threat of climate change. Some of this goes back to our manifesto from 2017. And we must tackle the threat of climate change. Our new government can and should establish a multi-billion-dollar international investment fund that will invest in environmental projects across the Caribbean, including sustainable development projects in all three Cayman Islands. And I understand that work on this has already been started. We can develop and update new climate change strategy with technical assistance and advice on climate change, risk mapping, and mitigation. And we can accelerate Cayman's transition to sustainable energy, including solar, with government taking the lead. We will work and must work, a new government must work with Caymanian private sector experts and technical experts, if we need them from abroad, to consider all our viable options. And we need to ensure that all new national housing development, trust homes that we build, that government builds, should incorporate solar energy for electricity generation and promote solar into new development projects and houses. And we must strengthen the management of our marine parks and other conservation areas, including the wildlife interaction zone, increase biodiversity funding and protection for our natural species and habitats, including the severe challenges faced by our reefs, include a native species replanting program, including in all parks and public spaces, and implement an anti-litter campaign coupled with more rational fines that allow for tickets to be given by police for littering. I have had so much of that to deal with in this last 4 years. Just littering in our community and people wantonly throwing garbage all over bed springs, mattresses, fridges. They just dump them on the side of the road, and I had to take care of some of that in my constituency. We have to include climate change adaptation measures as part of future development schemes, that is setback for sea defenses and flood alleviation measures, to give it good wording. And when we talk about Barkers, that's what we want. We know the 7 Mile Beach has its challenges already because it has been allowed to develop the way it has. But Barkers, we can move to a new generation, if you may, with it, because we can set back, we can get the proper setbacks for it. We have the acreage for National Park, where I bought 163 acres, and we can get more land, and we need to get more land because government don't own any beach property, and we can have 150, 300 feet of setback if need be. And so it's all private land up there. The government owns a little bit of it. So we have to do those things, and that's what I'm talking about. Climate change adaptation measures as part of future development, and we can reduce single-usage plastics, starting with a ban on plastic bags and straws in our first year. The government's first year, the new government's first year. This was debated at length in our last youth parliament, and it was, I think some of that was taken even in the regional debate sometime ago. It wouldn't have been last year, it would have been the year before that. So there are many things that we have to do. There is, I understand, recommendations of the Vehicle Import and Transportation Committee, which was stalled due to the pandemic. I understand proposals include strategies to reduce the importation of older, efficient cars, promoting the use of school buses by all schools, and encouraging carpooling and more flexi hours of work from home. But more than that, all these small imports that we are getting, which are causing a lot of problems on our roads, and while they are cheap to get and people can reach them easy cost-wise, that has to be looked at, because we can build roads as much as we want, and we cannot really, because we don't have the land anymore to do that with. We have to look at the importation of vehicles and find a new way of transport, and our people have to become disciplined to understand that we can only do so much as far as transportation is concerned. And I want to speak a few minutes, and if you have time, well...
You got 2 minutes, sir.
Talk. How much?
Yeah, 2 minutes, Mr. Bush.
How much? That's all I got left?
Yes, 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Oh, my God. But anyway, 15 minutes goes fast.
Yes, sir.
We must ensure that our children get the best possible start in life, and I'd like to see strategies for children under 6 and reform early years education and extend the availability of child care options, and working with our community to work with the schools. I have talked about this at length, about the reawakening that we need in our as a community and a community development. But every child should be taught in public school, rated good or better by the school's inspector reports by the end of this next 4 years, I hope. And I don't know how much we have done yet. I would like to see the reports on those. But we need to roll out the new and more challenging curriculum to better prepare students for an ever-changing world. Cayman has moved into the 21st century sometime before some people recognize it, but certainly the pandemic is certainly showing us that we have a new world order to deal with. And we need to roll out new school governance arrangements. We need to extend technical and vocational education and training to new services and knowledge-based sectors. For example, encouraging students to do more information and communications technology-related training. And we need to work with the private sector organizations to provide more internships, such as in hospitals, enterprise zones and businesses, and the media businesses. I do remember when I got elected, there was only one by the bankers and government giving a few scholarships. There were really much in-house training except for what cable and wireless used to do. And so we have come a long way, but there's much to be done.
Right.
As schools, we need to look at to provide early career guidance to ensure students are aware of the benefits of various jobs, including TVET, improved parenting support programs as part of the early years plan, and school building improvement program based on a prioritized list of schools and requirement improvements, and continue the improvements to primary school facilities and plan forward for any new primary school space as demand increases. I know West Bay has to do that because we must be reaching around the 600 now, and so we have to look at a new primary school, if not a high school. But all schools to develop wired classrooms to use technology for teaching, and every child to have access to the technology needed to benefit.
Right.
I want to thank Ms. Juliana, the Minister, Juliana O'Connor-Conley, for starting a lot of this, and the ideas around much of this we've talked about over the last 4 years. And now it's time for talk to stop and for work to begin in earnest in these with the new government. Whoever that's going to be, have to do these things. I want to see to make improvement to special needs provisions and extend individual support, including a school of excellence for children with autism disorder. No more just bits and pieces here. We need a school of excellence for children and young adults with autism disorder.
Right.
Some of the things that I'll be working hard at and pushing
Yes, sir.
and continuing as I have done over the years, Green, and I want to hopefully we can get a government that can work together to get these things done. I believe God is going to do that for us.
Amen.
I want to invite people to my meeting tonight. Tonight, 7:30 on Ebanks Road at the Leo Ebanks Children's Park at Ebanks Road on Watercourse Road or off Watercourse Road at 7:30 on Ebanks Road, and you'll hear some more of these things, forward-looking ideas about what we need, facts about what has taken place, and not just the whims and fancies and Alaska dreams of my opponent who've done nothing really to help people. My record for helping people cannot be challenged by any one of them. Not one of them that's running anywhere in Cayman today can challenge the results, the good results that I have put in place to help people, to help young people over the years, and to hold Cayman bright and strong. Imagine in the meltdown that I had to deal with in 2009, worldwide meltdown, not $1 was devalued by Cayman. Our dollar was strong while London was in trouble, while Bermuda was in trouble, while France was in trouble, and other European countries was in trouble. And other
Mr. Bush.
regional territories was in trouble. Cayman stood strong because I gave the right leadership, and I am prepared wherever I am called, God willing, on November,
next week.
Wednesday. Next week, Wednesday, God willing.
We'll get back to November election soon. All right. Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Bush.
Thank you for allowing me to come on at this time, and thanks to Radio Cayman, and thanks that I could talk to you on radio as I was busy, and I couldn't get to.
That's fine. That's fine.
To the radio station.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, sir. God bless, and we'll catch up with you sometime soon.
Sometime soon.
All right, there you go. All right, thanks again, and W. McKeever Bush, candidate for West Bay West. And to our listeners, we invite you to come back tomorrow again for more talk today, right after the midday news and midday meditations. We have more political candidates and political campaigning to get through tomorrow. Join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. Please consider strongly going out to the polls and vote come next Wednesday. It's not just a holiday. We want you to go and exercise your democratic right. Many have fought and gave their ultimate sacrifice to ensure that we have that freedom to cast our ballots. And if you are like some who have said, well, just go and vote. I'll tell you more about it later. Have a beautiful, blessed, productive, enjoyable rest of this Thursday. God's willing, we'll be a part of tomorrow, and each day we'll make it even better than the day before, not just for ourselves, but for each other. Let's be our brother's keeper, as OC reminds us. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.
Deep within each heart there lies a magic spark.